I'm so annoyed. I just filmed this entire thing so well, such a fire video, and then at the last second my camera glitched out and nothing was saved. But we're gonna run through it again. So Pluto in Aquarius is one of the most talked about transits for the next few decades, and it enters Aquarius briefly March 23rd to June 11th, 2023. It then retrogrades back out, and it firmly enters Aquarius January 21st, 2024 until January 19th, 2044. Now, to be clear, this is not the age of Aquarius, and this is not us ushering in a utopian freedom age. However, it is a transit that will define the next 20 years and has pros and cons. So this is my predictions and what we can expect over that time. Hi, if you're new here, I am Maren. I make content on astrology, videos on all platforms, and I have private readings, courses, daily horoscopes, weekly horoscopes, and other exclusive content linked at passes down below where I would love to see you. TLDR, I expect social movements to the upside and technological surveillance state interference in privacy and autonomy to the downside. So let's explain Pluto, explain Aquarius, explain the combination, and then explain what I predict. Pluto is a planet of death, rebirth, and transformation. It represents intensity and psychological magnitude. It takes 248 years to orbit around the zodiac, and this is why it spends 20 years in Aquarius coming up. It will represent a transformation of the social values of whatever sign it's in. Planets are the actors, and signs are the role they are playing. If you want full videos on what planets mean and what signs mean, I will link them down below. They are really good videos for getting you started if you're new to astrology and aren't familiar with Pluto or Aquarius. So Aquarius, in this case, is the sign that Pluto is in, and you'll hear a lot of buzzwords around Aquarius being a sign of the collective, and yes, you can say that, but I want to explain how we get there because signs do not represent things in the world. Signs are archetypes and behavioral ways of being, so we can equate them into things in the world such as like, I am a Virgo, I associate that with libraries, like that sort of thing, but I want to make sure to explain that like it's not as if signs equal things in the world, but we can extrapolate and make that conclusion. So Aquarius is a fixed sign. It is associated with the middle of winter, which means it is steady, stagnant, and dependable. It is not a cardinal sign of leadership, and it is not a mutable sign of adaptability. Fixed signs are stable and steady, and it is an air sign associated with communication, intellect, and ideals. So being fixed air, what happens when you fix air or concentrate ideas? You get social structures and you architect reality. So I think of Aquarius as the architect in many ways. It is not concerned with the nitty-gritty details, and it is not a leader who's starting something and not starting it like all the way through. It is definitely concerned with the vision, the oversight, and the architecture of things, and this is where we can get into extrapolating that it will be the collective that is transformed. And I would definitely emphasize that Aquarius is not inherently disruptive or rebellious. I do not associate Uranus at all with Aquarius. I do not think that Uranus rules Aquarius. I do not think that Uranus has any connection to Aquarian themes. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which is stable, severe, structural, and very serious. So Aquarius is therefore idealistic, yes, and very much a planner for the better world, but it is not chaotic, it is not disruptive, and I think that attributing Uranus to Aquarius has led to a misunderstanding of Aquarius not being the rebel. It might be a challenger in some very logical ways, but not at all a upheaval, rebellious energy. So the combination of Pluto and Aquarius means a transformation of social movements and also technological advancements. This is not inherently good or bad. For example, the positive side is that we could have more social movements that increase equity amongst peoples. The dark side is that we could have a surveillance state technocracy with little to no privacy. So this great reset, you will own nothing and you will be happy. In my opinion, because I'll insert when it's my opinion, I do think that that's a scary side of Pluto and Aquarius. Groupthink and tribalism are definitely a concern, but pretty neutrally, without my opinion, I would discern that Pluto and Aquarius will have positives and negatives around social movements and technological impact. So I'm going to run through the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, which was 1778 to 1798. I will explain what happened and then take that for my predictions for what is coming up this time. So firstly, there was a huge expansion of China through the Qin dynasty in the late 18th century. And funny enough, in 2020, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happened on China's ascendant. The last time this happened was during Genghis Khan's rule when the Silk Roads were all over Eurasia. And now the Belt and Road Initiative, I believe, has similar parallels to that. So that's just an offside that last time China was was very, very relevant for this transit, and I think that that will continue on, as I will get into and elaborate. Secondly, the Industrial Revolution took place, where machines replaced humans and allowed for a greater quality of life. This was also an era in general of literal war revolutions, because the American Revolution took place during this time. It technically started in the 1760s, but it went until 1791, and the Constitution and Bill of Rights were formed during this time. The French Revolution also took place, which was a good example of the more violent, bloody side of this transit, and it was not the only revolution as well. There's also the Liège Revolution, the Bourbon Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and there was a war between Poland and Russia. So there was a lot of uprisings between social groups during this time. It was the end of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in 1795, which was huge in previous centuries. The Enlightenment was also continuing to take place during this time. In 1783, the Russian annexation of Crimea took place. In 1792, the New York Stock Exchange was founded, and during this time there were published works such as the Critique of Pure Reason and the Critique of Practical Reason by Kant. Kant is like this super word salady hypotheticals thing, and he talks about things that I could definitely see being repeated during this Pluto and Aquarius transit, because there's gonna be a lot of weird identity shit talked about, derivatives of humans in my opinion, so Kant definitely resonates with that as well. Also published was The Rights of Man by Thomas Paine and A Vindication of the Rights of Woman by Mary Wollstonecraft. So talking about rights and what is owed to each human being, I see being repeated. Also, Mozart published the Magic Flute Opera during this time. So these are my predictions for Pluto and Aquarius this time, 2023 to 2044. Firstly, miss me with any of these. Anyone could have guessed this, or I could have predicted this, then make your own fucking video, thank you. So as I already mentioned, I believe that China will expand in its power and in its reach in the world, and this will be a defining world player of this time, if not the defining world player, clearly in comparison to the US. So Pluto will be going through their first house of identity, and I think that there will be a more totalitarian expression through China than a utopian one. In 2026 to 2028, Pluto will cross China's moon and ascendant, and the North Node will be there as well. I think that 2026 to 2028 will be an extremely relevant time for China's reach in the world. And in general, I think that there will be a more innovative, futuristic arrangement of nations and popular cities. For example, Saudi Arabia's The Line and their NEOM development of smart city. That will be very important. I know that China has a bunch of smart cities that they are building, so technologically autonomous cyber cities will likely increase. Also, I expect an AI revolution. So instead of the Industrial Revolution replacing humans with machines, I think that AI will replace entire sectors with artificial intelligence. And at first, this will disrupt industries and lead to loss of jobs, but in the long run, this will improve quality of life and lead to more fitting jobs for human interest. I expect more revolutions and uprisings in general. I think that we will see the most revolutions in terms of nations that we've seen in a long time. I think that social division will continue to increase to the point of polarization and upheaval, and this is inevitable. We are bound for this to keep hitting the extremes, and I think that this will not only lead to a cold civil war in the US, if you don't already think that we're in that, but also just more chaos with the world. I think that the World Economic Forum and similar groups will take advantage of this and lead to things such as the Great Reset, where everything is owned but you are taken care of. Sure, there will be less crime and violence, but there will be much more surveillance, less autonomy, and less variety in life experiences. And what Pluto and Aquarius brings in innovation, it definitely loses in spice and interesting things, and I think that the Great Reset is a perfect example of what is likely to happen in the world during this time. With the revolutions, and back to that, I think that those with more right-wing fascist, usual revolutions will be more just the traditional, we don't like you dictator, uprising, we want more equality. I think that some countries that we can expect to have a revolution during this next 20 years are Iran again, and also Brazil. Brazil has a 15-degree Aquarius North Node and a 22-degree Aquarius Ascendant. Pluto will cross that in 2039, so I'm looking at that time for Brazil. I think we could possibly see the rupture of the EU. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth fell apart during this time, and I think that because Pluto in Aquarius shows transformation of ties and groups, that countries will begin to have alliances based on their beliefs and based on their ideals, rather than alliances based on their proximity and geography to one another, which is why I think the EU could dissolve. I think that the Donbass region of Ukraine could be annexed to Russia. Last time it was Crimea, and so I think that this strengthens that correlation, as I think that this will happen. Central bank digital currencies will likely become the norm, and this is a big one that I think will be one of the most defining traits of this time period, given that there are already countries starting to experiment with this. So a central bank digital currency, or a CBDC, is a a government-run cryptocurrency that they can manipulate at any given time. I think this is pretty logical. I mean, we went from goods to cash to credit cards. The next step is likely CBDCs. And the US apparently just opened up a massive purchase for a new gold-backed currency. I got a text about this, and I think that the only logical conclusion around this is that they've opened up purchases for gold for a gold-backed CBDC. And I have many videos on the US finances in particular over the next few years, such as the Pluto return happening and also CBDCs for the US. So the risk of something like this is that it could become part of a social credit system, like, oh, you're a model citizen, you get paid out of thin air. Oh, you're not in the right belief system, or you're in the wrong group of people, we take money away from you. So there's an inevitability, but also a dystopian aspect of this, and this is a perfect example of Pluto and Aquarius, where technology can be used for more connection and greater ease, but also coercion. I think technology will be codified into rights more substantially. The Constitution and Bill of Rights were ratified last time. I think that big tech's importance in the world will lead to new legislation codified much more this time. I expect identities to get even stranger. I think that this will go beyond like non-binary or different sorts of sexual orientations and lead into like cyborg level identity affiliation, like just identities I can't even conceptualize coming into being. And in general, crazy tech shit. From massive surveillance and central bank digital currencies to entire smart cities and AI running the world, I think that there will be innovation and transformation of technologies all in the world that we truly are cyborgs. So specific dates to watch out for: March 2023 until June 2023 is a preview because Pluto is briefly entering, stationing retrograde at 0 degrees, and then going back into Capricorn. Look at this March until the end of May time basically as an appetizer and preview of what is to come. This will also probably be in a positive way because Pluto will square Jupiter in May, which shows very positive events to introduce this. Then February 2024 is when the transit really starts for the next 20 years, and it should start with a bang defining event because Pluto will be still loosely squaring Jupiter to start this 2024 transit, which is more optimistic and more positive. Then late 2026 to 2027 has Pluto trine Uranus in Gemini and opposite Jupiter in Leo, which is pretty groundbreaking and very technologically impressive. There will also be the North Node in Aquarius, which is a huge breakthrough year. 2029 has Pluto squaring Saturn, which definitely looks like a pushback and a conservative response to the innovation. 2030 to 2031 has Pluto sextile Jupiter in Sag and Neptune in Pisces and trining Uranus and Saturn in Gemini, so this looks like a pretty positive combination of innovation. 2036 to 2037 has Pluto opposite Saturn, which looks very challenging. So this is what it means for your rising sign. I will make a full video on this if you want for me to fully explain what to expect, but I'll run through it briefly at the end here. So Pluto for Aquarius risings will be in your first house of self. You will transform your identity, your looks maybe, and your character. Pluto will be in the second house for Capricorn risings. This will be a transformation of your income and your spending and your personal finances. Pluto will be in the third house for Sagittarius risings. This will be a transformation of your communication and the way that you post online and have your daily routine. This will be in the fourth house for Scorpio risings, which will have to do with home and family transforming. This will be in the fifth house for Libra risings. This will be romantic and creative transformation, and also kids if you have them or are planning on having them. This will be in the sixth house for Virgo risings, which will transform your health, your illnesses or injuries, and also your coworker dynamics. This will be in the seventh house of relationships and partnerships for Leo risings. So your marriage or the way that you think about relationships could change and transform pretty heavily. This will be in the eighth house for Cancer risings, which will be a transformation of shared finances and investments. This will be in the ninth house for Gemini risings, which will be around foreign travel, higher education, and your beliefs and philosophy. This will be in the 10th house for Taurus risings, which will be around your career and professional life. This will be in the 11th house for Aries rising, which will be your social network and the groups you're a part of. And this will be in the 12th house for Pisces risings, which will be around mental health and spiritual beliefs and addictions or afflictions. So my final thoughts is that this is not a sudden or chaotic transit. Pluto moves very slowly, so you will not wake up and feel a difference. But you will begin to notice transformations in the world and discussions during this transit when it actually takes place. As Saturn leaves Aquarius and Pluto enters, it is removing restrictions or trouble around technological innovation and social movements and putting more transformation into them as we move forward. This is a neutral transit with clear pros and cons that I hope that I have shown, that there's both good and both dystopian indications of this. So for now, let me know your thoughts and any questions that you have down below, or things that you think I didn't mention, or if you're offended, please feel free to rant. It helps the engagement. So take care. I'm running late, and we'll see you in the next one.